Hello and welcome back to the Reject Pile with me, Luke Edwards. In this episode, I'm joined by Dan Sweryt, who returns to the podcast to discuss submitting to and rejections from the BBC Radio 4 programme, The Skewer. Hi Dan, welcome back.
Hello, nice to be here.
Thanks for joining me again in the Reject Pile. Listeners may remember your last appearance on the podcast with Ellie Hayward, where you joined me to discuss breaking the news rejects and techniques for helping writers to get a credit on that show. But today, our focus is on The Skewer. So could you tell the listeners, firstly, a little bit about your background, high level, but then also your particular connection with The Skewer?
So I'm a comedy writer, full-time now, after about 20 years of writing. And I am one of the commissioned writers on The Skewer, lead writer on Breaking the News. I've been writing for Dead Ringers as well recently, and The Naked Week. And I usually write with Stu Cooper and Stephen Mowini in a threesome, which is unusual in the writing world, I think, but that seems to work for us.
Great.
And yeah, we just got into writing about 2006. 2005, I did a writing course. 2006, I got my first credits, and then I've sort of slowly built up from there.
20 years in the making.
20 years in the making. Before anyone gets too hopeful, I didn't immediately become a professional comedy writer.
Yes. Let's get that
took
straight.
About 15 years to get to. So, and that is, I think, normal in this world. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. And so where does The Skewer fit in? Like, when did you start to contribute to The Skewer?
So The Skewer came in, it was series 2 of The Skewer. We saw John Holmes, the producer, tweet about it. Remember the days? Remember Twitter before it became something else?
Yeah.
And he said, do you want to write for The Skewer? Not to us, to everybody, because everybody was on it at that time. It's not the same, not the same anymore.
Yeah, I don't know where you'd go now to reach that audience.
And I said to Stephen Shu, well, look, there's a comedy program, because we hadn't heard it. We just thought it was like a normal sketch show where you write, like a Newsjack or a DMs are open kind of sketch show. And then, so I think I DM'd John to ask him, and he said, yeah, get in touch with this email address and stuff like that, before listening to what it was. And then we listened to series 1 and we thought, what is this? What is happening here?
Yeah.
Which is a funnier gag if you've heard the show and understand what I'm talking about. And Steve got back to me and went, I don't think we can write for this. Yeah. But it turns out we could, and you can, as in everyone.
Yes, good.
Because although it takes, as you well know, Luke, it takes a while to get your head around it. It is really a traditional sort of sketch show, as in it's the juxtapositioning of two different things. But rather than two different ideas that you've written down as a script that actors read out, all the lines have already been recorded.
Yes.
You just have to find the lines, and the lines are on the internet, and the internet is very, very big.
Yeah.
So it's more of a job of searching. And what it is if people haven't heard it, it's essentially two ideas mashed up. So in general, because it's a satirical show, one of those ideas is the news, some things that's happening in the news, and we'll mash it up with either usually a TV program, maybe a radio show, or just a song in the background that makes what you're saying more pertinent, and then you mix them together.
Sounds quite simple.
Simple as that. Yeah. So one idea that I always hark back to was a very early idea we had. It was during COVID. Matt Hancock, that was health secretary. It's hard to say that now, isn't it? It's hard to believe that. And they released
That's a joke in itself.
It is, yeah. There's a test and trace app that we all had eventually, and it was being trialled on the Isle of Man, and it absolutely went completely wrong. And what we did was we got the news reports of Matt Hancock apologising about it going wrong and mixed it up as though it was a task from Taskmaster, and he'd got it wrong. So Greg and Alex were essentially taking the mick out of him. All the crowd were laughing at him. Other people were, other comedians were taking the mick as well.
Brilliant.
And it worked very well, we thought. And that's the kind of thing you're doing. So in those instances, the news report already existed. All the Taskmaster clips already existed. And it was our job to pick out the right ones that were appropriate for what he was saying. So he said, sorry, I did this wrong. And then Greg would say, the invention, the idea, and then that. And everyone laughs. And you match up those lines to make a sketch out of it. So it is more traditional than people think when they hear it, but it is a different way of thinking about writing sketches.
Well, that's very reassuring to hear for me and the listeners, I'm sure. So that's kind of gives us the story as to like your origin story of writing to it. But then you go deeper because you're featured on John's website for the guide to writing, and you run a course similar to the Breaking the News course that you were talking to me about in that previous episode. So where does that come into the picture?
So yeah, I think there was one point. So we started writing series 2, which was 6 half-hour episodes, and then we got a bit on, and we got a bit on series 3, which was 12 episodes of 15 minutes. Which they're not doing that again because it killed everyone essentially. And then about series 4, we seemed to sort of get it. Like we tuned right into it. We'd had a bit of success on 2 and 3, and then 4, it was like I think we got something on every week bar 1 of an 8-week episode, 8-week series.
And what's that time period? Is that annual or
that was they were doing frequent? 3 a year? So I think it was
within a year.
Within a year,
yeah.
And then, I mean, speaking to John at Skewer Drinks, you get invited to Skewer Drinks if you get stuff on.
I've heard.
He said, yeah, I could tell when you got it. Do you know what I mean? It was like it just clicked at series 4.
Yeah.
And then by series 7, we were commissioned. So that was about a year later because we were doing 3 series a year at that point.
Yeah.
And then we've been commissioned ever since. And then Dave Cowan got in touch with me. We were already running the Breaking the News course, helping people get credits for Breaking the News. A blatant plug if people want help writing their gags, where we don't rewrite your gags. We'll help the gags you're trying to write get it into the best shape, and then you rewrite it yourself, send it off. This is a sort of thing with the Skewer is we're trying to help you write the right pitch to get John's attention. Once you've got his attention, he'll send you write this up as a sketch, and then it's kind of over to you to find all the stuff. You will have done a lot of research to write that pitch. But it's about getting the right pitch and the elevator pitch, as people keep saying. You want to grab the attention of the producer so that he can't say no. That's what you're aiming for, yeah? As with any pitch, be it sitcom or whatever, that's what we're helping with here. And that's your guide into the Skewer. And John's very open to new writers. He likes having new writers on. So we're just trying to sort of help them mold their pitches into the right thing so that John can't say no to them. There's a contributor guide on the Unusual Productions website. In the top right, I think it says the Skewer, and there's a drop down where John's written a contributor guide, what he wants, and then he kindly put mine underneath, which is more writer focused.
Yeah.
About what to do. And it's probably everything I'm going to say again now, but it's there if people want it for free. And there's a sample script on there that is one of our sketches that we did, which was it was Succession. There's a scene in Succession where Greg and Tom are burning documents, essentially, because the FBI are coming around, if people have seen Succession. And there was that thing with Trump having the documents in his shower at Mar-a-Lago, and we mashed them up. That example script is on there. It's not exactly the same as went out in the show, so it's a good example of what you write and what went out. Because you can listen to everything on this. The entire Skewer is on BBC Sounds.
Yeah.
And it is very good. I mean, I'm biased, I write for it, but it is a really good show. So that example script, follow that if he asks you to write a script, because that's him saying, I like it like this, in this format, with these links, these time codes.
It's endorsed, really.
Yeah. So there's no reason not to do it like that. That's what I find odd with some people sending me going, why haven't you written it? Not just for this show, but any show.
Yeah.
If the producer says, write it like this, then don't do something different.
That's the first hurdle.
Write it like that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's brilliant. So we've had some submissions in from listeners, and I think we've got 1 or 2 examples from your own work as well. But I thought I'd break the ice a bit like we did on that Breaking the News episode. I'll go first, sort of throw myself as a lamb to the slaughter.
Yeah.
With my only ever submission, which was a few years ago. And funnily enough, my email to John says, this is the first of hopefully many submissions.
That's that irony. That was a gag. He was supposed to understand that, I imagine.
Who knows? I may follow through on that threat at some point. And what I also want to do, and maybe there's something in this we can get into. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say because I don't want to get cancelled before my career's even begun, right? But I remembered when I was trying to get my head around the show and what to submit, and it might be in your guide as well. I think a bit of received wisdom is to look out for where you spot some hypocrisy or a contradiction.
Yes.
And it also helps if you feel strongly about that.
Yes, yeah.
So, like I said, my submission was a few years back when there were a lot of workers' strikes, union strikes.
Yeah.
And the one that jumped out to me was the teacher strike, because I'm a parent of a school-aged child. And I remember back to COVID and the lockdowns and all of the information and the pressure on parents to do their homeschooling and the importance of that and not missing out on this crucial education. So I just couldn't help feel like this bit of contradiction in terms with teachers not being there to teach the children. So I sent an email into John to outline that. And I suggested juxtaposing sound bites from those 2 stories and maybe putting it against a song like Another Brick in the Wall or School's Out, something like that. And it was great because I got a response from John. And that in itself is quite cool, getting a response from a well-known producer like John. And he said, it's not we will definitely use it. There's loads of factors that come into play, but by all means, crack on. It's not a commission, but I mean, speculatively, it's a rich area. It might be that Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall, Alice Cooper, Schools Out, they seem a little Route One, so bear that in mind. And then he suggests maybe look for a cover of Brick in the Wall. So that's great. I got that response, but then it's kind of where it went off the rails for me because I didn't really know what I was doing next. I didn't know if I was going to find the quotes and how I would do that. As you said, the internet's a big place. And then what when I found them? Do I write them up? Do I write them in a script? Is it a conventional script? Or do I produce the audio? How much time do I invest given that he's already said it's not a commission? So I had all of that going in my head. And I followed up as well. And I was like, okay, I found this and I didn't really get anything back. So what would your feedback be to me? I don't know if this is the sort of thing that you would cover on the course. But yeah, I'm interested in your feedback on that submission and any guidance on that interaction and what the next steps should have been for me.
Right. John got back to you. And that is the coolest thing because John Holmes he knows what he's doing. Like I said, he's got a lot of comedy awards. So he knows what he's doing. The fact that he gets back to you is success enough sometimes, I think, for people. He said a lot in that email. I don't think he says that much anymore. That must have been quite early on. Or like a new encouraging sort of thing, just to get people in the right headspace. That I mean, there's very little money in it. People don't do this for the money, believe me. And I think what you were saying, right, is right. The advice you were giving is right, is if you're really passionate about something, write about that because something will come out of that. I think it was good to say, give suggestions for the song. So you're doing the background song. The Skewer does like a good cover version. And that's...
Is that just because it's a bit more niche? Is there something a bit alternative about it?
Yeah, I think John's really into music, like a separate thing. He did the 6 Music show and he worked for XFM, Radio X, what they call now. And I think he's quite he's very into his music. So he likes hearing a different version of what might be considered a normal song. I mean, it doesn't mean they don't use other stuff, but like you say, I think the Skewer is an alternative sort of program. It's on at 11:15 at night. People expect it to be a little bit weird, otherwise it'd be a 6:30. Bar the language, it would be a 6:30 program. And I think when we've suggested things, I've always had a look for alternative versions, and then I end up in a rabbit hole where I'm clearly, like most writers, on a bit of a spectrum where I'll be down a rabbit hole of thinking this is a cool version of whatever song it is. This is much better than this is better than the original. Why am I down here? Yeah, I've forgotten why I'm there. Because I think when the Queen died, there was it wasn't even a pitch of a sketch. It was just me sending an email to John saying, oh, well, make sure you use The Show Must Go On by Queen. And I think he used an alternative version of The Show Must Go On. But it's the perfect song to use about Charles taking over and stuff like that. But you'll end up finding some really good versions of songs, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think so. So I think you're right in saying, although Another Brick in the Wall feels like Skewer anyway to me, but a slow version of what is normally a fast song or a fast version of what is normally a slow song is kind of the way the Skewer likes to go.
Okay.
So that is a good way to think. Having seen your initial email to John, I didn't see John's reply, but I saw your email to John and I thought, that is short. That is short and sharp, and I wasn't quite sure what you were saying. And I think
okay,
that might be. And I mean, I originally thought he hadn't replied to you, and you were sort of following up with another email with some quotes in it. We'll get onto that in a minute. But I think my key point about pitching to it, you want John to basically go, that is a good idea. I need them to do it.
Yeah.
And from John's reply there, it sounds like, I quite like your idea, but he's over explaining to hedge his bets. I need a bit more. Can you make it a bit more pizzazz?
Yeah.
We're in showbiz, kind of thing. And all the pitches we try and write, especially on the course, is it needs to feel a bit cinematic. That's how we try and write our pitches. So that John, admittedly, there's a bit of, he trusts us to do it now, so we can kind of get away with a bit. But we still try to write the pitches like, boom, this is happening, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Here's a link to where some quotes are. So here's a link I would send, in that case, here's a link to the Brick in the Wall video or alternative Brick in the Wall video. You've already piqued his interest if you've sent alternative, because he knows what Brick in the Wall sounds like, but he doesn't know what Jeff down the road's version of Brick in the Wall sounds like, and he'll be already piqued. And then you put a link to where you're getting some quotes from, but put the quotes in like you sent some quotes, but I think you sent it in another email.
Yeah,
afterwards.
subsequent. Yeah.
And we will always put at least a couple of quotes in for how this is going to work. So we'll put in a bit of this and a bit of that. Like one of our sketches was about open all hours, and it was class A open all hours. It was when drugs were being sold in shops, like not long ago.
Yeah.
And we thought that's a really good idea. And it turns out Ellie had written basically the same sketch as well. So what ended up in the show was two versions, a bit of hers and a bit of ours.
Cool.
And John will always do that. He'll always mix the best bits from people's sketches. But in that, we sort of summed it up like it was Arkwright asking for the things. We put a bit of stuttering in the pitch, and then we put a bit of quotes in about what was happening, from this particular episode. There was an episode of Open All Hours from early 80s about Arkwright trying to get rid of ginger cake, genuine ginger cake from Jamaica, but people had come in and thought it was drugs. So there was already an overlap with the news report on Newsnight about drugs being sold in convenience stores and things like that. There's a bit of intro about how to sell it. There's a link to the Newsnight report. And then there's this episode of Open All Hours where Arkwright mixes up ginger cake, and then there's a load of quotes. I basically think I watched the whole episode and pulled a load of quotes out anyway, or I looked at the YouTube transcript, which is a good way of finding quotes, and threw a few of them in to try and sell the idea. And I think from your original email, it was kind of a bit, what about this?
It didn't go far enough.
It was kind of like, it was very polite, and I understand because you're sort of approaching a producer for the first time, and I've done the same thing to all producers probably. I probably did that in that DM to John originally. But you're not at work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're trying to impress a producer, and they're trying to be impressed. They're on the other side of that equation. I want to be impressed. John sat there going, I want ideas to come in.
Yeah.
Because basically he doesn't want to write the show himself. It's too much work. So he wants to be blown away by these ideas. So don't be scared to just go full in. Here's idea number 1, bang. Here's idea number 2, bang. Here's a quote. Here's the news report I'm going to work. You sure you've done the background work as well? Newsnight is a staple for us. At least old Newsnight was. New Newsnight is always good because there's generally 5 minutes of somebody talking in depth about a subject. So there's a lot of quotes about something.
Yeah.
But you're just showing that. I've watched Newsnight about this, bang. Here's the link to Newsnight if you want to see it. Then what we're going to do is, don't write those exact words, but do you know what I mean? What you're implying, then I'm going to mix it up with this episode of Open All Hours. Bang, link to Open All Hours. Usually on YouTube is the easiest if you can find it. And we're going to use quotes like this. And if there's any pertinent news report quotes that match very well with what happened in Open All Hours in that episode, put them side by side so it looks like that's part of the script.
Okay.
You're doing. And then put yourself in the producer's mind. And this is for any show. If you were pitching this to any show, that producer's not read that before. That's a good idea. That's a good link. Those examples work. Bang, go on, do it. And that's all you want. That's all you're trying to get from John in this case, is him to say, go away and do it, because he's bought into the idea. Now, the fact that he's replied to you and said not as overwhelmingly encouraging as it could be, but the fact that he's bought into it means he wants you to write it up and impress him with it. So he's giving you the chance to do that. And that's all you want from the pitch. There's numerous times where the pitch is not, the final sketch has not turned out what the pitch is like for us. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's been used. A lot of the time it doesn't get used. We write a lot. But him saying yes to this is a good thing, because you've got things to work on, and he wants those things and he can see them in the show. He wouldn't say he wouldn't say go ahead if he didn't think they could work in the show.
Yeah.
It's probably a good time to mention now that every show has, John says, about 45 minutes of material for a 14-minute show, of which the last 4 minutes are one big pathosy sketch making an important point. So you've got 10 minutes, and if you've written a sketch up, he's probably made it. He's probably made it a version of it, even if it doesn't get in. So getting him to say yes is the important bit. I mean, that will go into, you will lose your entire weekend because you're writing this sketch, which is a choice you have made by pitch.
I think, I've got a few sort of questions that are firing off as a result of what you're saying. I guess first thing is, the point at which you're sending the pitch in, you haven't produced a script.
Nope.
But you've got the general idea of how you envisage it going.
Yeah, I would have a clear idea of what's going on. I think that from looking at other people's and giving feedback, a lot of people have sort of had an idea but not followed it through, or it's a bit scattergun and they've had too much idea, which is quite a writery thing as well, which I'll throw this in, I'll throw him in, I'll throw them in, and that's too much. That's confusion. It needs to be quite clear. So I would stick to two things, like what is happening in the news that makes it relevant, and what's the spin on it through Knight Rider or the A-Team. Do you know what I mean? How am I going to do it through that medium? And stick to them. But don't do Knight Rider and the A-Team. That's already starting to get confusing. Yeah. And then don't do Manimal as well as Knight Rider and the A-Team, because no one knows what that is.
Yeah.
But keep it focused with those two things. So, and then I think just on your follow-up email when you said you put the quotes in it.
Yeah.
I think, number one, John's got a load on. So you sending him an email, even if it is attached to the one, it needs to all be in one. That work needs to have been done before, I think.
Yes, I think that's crucial, learning.
Yes, that's crucial. And it needs to be in one place, because John's described his inbox as a bin fire before anyway. So it's hard enough to get through to him, even when he knows who you are. So I think have them in with your pitch. And I don't think the time codes are in there, or the links.
No, true.
Necessarily.
Yeah.
And what John needs more than anything is time codes and links, because he cannot sit there and watch this entire episode of Manimal. At least give him a chance.
Yeah.
here's the link to it. It's 20 minutes and 53 seconds. This guy says this.
I guess just a couple of like really fine detail questions. It's one pitch per email?
No. Send them all in one email.
Okay.
I would say that's crucial. Send them all in. Don't send one. He doesn't want 10 emails from Luke Edwards. Would you want 10 emails from Luke Edwards?
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't want to send them either.
That's the thing. So with all due respect, send one email.
Is it, they're all in an attachment or?
No, I would just send them as
body
pitches.
Of the email?
I would send in the body of the email.
Right.
Again, and this is important for any show, get in the head of the producer. What would you find the easiest to deal with? So ours are 4 or 5 paragraphs, 4 or 5 ideas, as I've described each one, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with a title. Try and give it a funny title. You're a comedy writer, yeah?
Yeah.
Don't have to, but it sort of helps. It already sets the tone before he's even read the paragraph about what it is. He kind of gets in the idea. We send like 8 or 9, but there's 3 of us because we know if he says write all 9, we can do 3 each to start with.
Yeah, good job.
I would go with 3 or 4, but John tends to just cut and paste the ones. What he does, I think, is reply to you and delete the ones he doesn't want.
Okay.
And he'll say, write them below, and it'll be like 1, 4, and 5 or something like that. And that's just easier for him because all he's got to do is delete things rather than change things. And if he's got a suggestion for it, he'll say, write these below. For that one, do this. Or for that one, I've already got this, but if you do it like this, do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And if John suggests something, do what the producer suggests. Yeah? All right. I'm just hammering this home because there's some writers that still do things that baffle me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much for that, Dan. I really appreciate that. And I'm assuming this is the sort of insight that writers will get on your course.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. So let's turn the attention away from me and we'll talk about a couple of the submissions that I've had. So I've had a few things in from Nick Locumbere, who's sent some things into the show before. So thanks, Nick. The first one on Nick's list is the Tory leadership contest as a discombobulating Groundhog Day. And he's shared a link to a Newsnight episode, an LBC status on x.com, and a film trailer.
Yeah, which I assume is a Groundhog Day.
Presumably.
Yes, yeah. I haven't looked at the link, sorry, Nick. But Nick's sent 4 sketches in here, or 4 ideas, 4 pitches. And I think the same sort of applies as to what I was just saying about your things. I think these are one-line ideas that are not really selling it as well as they could do. So you want to go into a bit more depth. So you've got the Tory leadership contest as discombobulating Groundhog Day. Yeah, we get it, but a lot of people might have the same idea. So go into it in a little bit more detail. You know, from that Newsnight report, as I said before, a good source. Nick's going to the right places to get the sources. But pick out what are the pertinent phrases that people have said in Newsnight. What makes it interesting? How Newsnight have covered it? What bits can you pull out to make your sketch work? And then pull out the bits of Groundhog Day, especially the bits we all know, where like Bill Murray punches the guy in the face and that sort of thing, and the well-known quotes. Or, I mean, it's well known enough. Everyone knows Groundhog Day. It's very good in terms of its recognizability. You don't need to do, which we might get onto later, movie voiceover guy saying, it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
That's a bit, Skewer wouldn't do that. Yeah, it's like, too on the nose. It's recognizable enough for people to know, oh, that's Bill Murray walking around experiencing the same thing again and again. So what you want to do is get the right quotes out. So Bill Murray, the alarm clock.
That's the key
bit, isn't it?
Factor, isn't it? Yeah.
Alarm clock starting up. I've got you, babe, playing on the radio. So click, radio alarm comes on. I've got you, babe, plays. And then we do a bit from Newsnight. And then click, it happens again. It's a different line from Newsnight, but it's essentially saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And then, or different person. Robert Jenrick, David Cameron, Boris, take your pick. But the idea is there. But get that on paper so that John knows how you're thinking. Because then he thinks, oh, that's a good way of doing it. Or don't do it like that, but still do it is as much good advice as yes, do it like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's what's missing from most of Nick's pitches. You kind of get it, but everyone could write that same one. If John didn't get back to you, but someone else has done the same sketch, that's kind of a wide net to say, I wrote that sketch, but you haven't, because you haven't said any of the lines in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sort of key bit that we're getting, that this is the point of it. Make it your sketch. Somehow make it your sketch, like you can claim ownership of that sketch. And you do that by saying, I'm doing it like this. And then if a sketch turns up where the alarm clock comes on, Sonny and Cher sing something about David Cameron, same happened, something about Robert Jenrick, blah, blah, blah. Genuinely, it's your sketch.
Yeah.
or maybe with a bit. It won't be exactly your sketch. Do you know what I mean? Nothing's ever got on that is exactly what you wrote, but it's similar enough for you to say, yeah, I've written that, and to hear your name in the credits. You might not because they're so fast. You might not because they pronounce your name wrong every single time.
Yeah.
Even though you've got like 100 odd credits on the show.
Yeah.
No personal experience.
Okay, sounds like it's coming from somewhere.
Write what you're passionate about. And then I think for Nick's other sketches, so we've got the Reeves fiscal rule change as DeVito's dodgy car dealer tricks from Matilda. Very good, but let's be a bit more specific about it. Let's show John that we've done some research. And Nick's obviously done the research. He's put the links in. But pull out of those links what you think is funny about those links. There's always one good quote from every news report, and there's always one recognizable quote from every film, TV program.
Yeah.
Even Manimal.
I might have to test you on that one. I'll challenge you.
Young, rich, handsome. It's in the beginning. It's worth seeing. It's very funny. Look it up.
I'll take your word for it.
And then there's the film trailer from Matilda. I mean, there's the two. I mean, I don't know which one that is. Apologies, Nick. Again, it could be the new Matilda.
Yeah.
It could be the old Matilda. I mean, you said Danny DeVito,
yeah.
So it's the older one. But again, that just sort of lends to something else, which is that they recently, Radio 4 have asked the Skewer to be a bit more current if they can.
Okay.
With links. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be. It's just a suggestion that let's be a little bit more current. So if there's a new version of Matilda,
if you've got a choice,
let's go with the new version of Matilda. Yeah. I mean, Stephen Graham's the Danny DeVito character in Matilda, and I think he does the same things. So why wouldn't you use the more recent one than the Danny DeVito? It's not eminently more recognizable. It's not like one. They're two different versions because one's a musical, but people know both of them. So if you started playing the music from Matilda, sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty. It's ideal for that, isn't it? It's ideal for that. So start with the song, put in a bit of Newsnight. Then we know where we are straight away. It's the character from Matilda with that song, and Rachel Reeves is the character from Matilda. And then throw in a couple of lines from the film, throw in a bit more of the background, throw in Rachel Reeves saying something idiotic, and then put that in the pitch. Do that in your pitch. And then John's going to go, oh, yeah, right, that always works.
Do you find that your writing partnership helps?
So our pitches, to be honest, the most collaborative bit of us is the pitches. As you can see, what I'm doing there is what I do with Steve and Stu and they do with me. We'll have a WhatsApp thread, essentially, on Friday and Saturday saying what's happened in the news. And then you might not be in a very comedy mood, but you're going, Keir Starmer's resigned. We need to write something about that. And then Steve or Stu will go, is there any famous resignations in sitcom? Is a good place to start? And we'll have a little brainstorm. And it might not be a sitcom. It might be, or maybe Yes, Prime Minister or something. I'm sure somebody resigned in that. And that might lead to us thinking about something else, or a famous resignation in a drama series or something like that, like Line of Duty or something. But we'll get that discussion out of the way as we're writing the pitch. And sometimes it'll be, we'll write a pitch about, say it is Yes, Prime Minister, this bit about where X resigns in Yes, Prime Minister. And then number 2 underneath it will be, we can do that with Line of Duty, where someone else resigns, and give John the choice.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
pretty much the thing. But the collaborative bit we really do is that coming up with that pitch, which I'm sort of showing you here by going through Nick's in particular.
Yeah, that's good.
That they're Nick's ideas. Here's what I'm telling you, do it like this. Then Nick would come back with, maybe that doesn't work, but if we could do it with this one, that's how the collaborative process helps us three mostly. And then there was earlier on, when we were still writing as a 3, there was a lot of we'll get it out. We didn't really understand the show. And one of us would write it, the initial version, and the other 2 would edit it. And that is a lot easier for stuff that is not the Skewer. Because for Dead Ringers, for instance, if Steve has an issue with my line, he'll just change it. And then Lewis McLeod will just do that line on paper. But if Steve has an issue with the line I found in Newsnight, I can't go and get...
There's not a lot
I can't go and get the guy from Newsnight to re-record it for me.
Yeah.
So we tend to kind of leave it unless it's really wrong, because it seems to work in the way of the Skewer. And then John will have a go at it anyway and make it shorter, because it will always make it shorter. Everything's too long.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well done, Nick. I think he's got a good starting point. He just needs to work on it a bit. And it's the same advice I was giving you, I think. Grab John's attention, make it so he can't say no, and then waste your whole weekend doing something that he won't use in the end. But you're doing the writing bit. That's your job.
Yeah. I think
get him to say yes, get to the writing bit, send him the writing bit, then it's his problem.
Yeah. That's really useful. Thanks, Dan. Okay, so moving on to another previous guest of the Reject Pile, we've got Mike Grace, who sent us in a couple of submissions. Now, Mike has had several credits on this.
He has. I've met Mike at Skewer Drinks.
There we go.
Second plug. for getting stuff on.
Another reason to get stuff on.
Yes, it is, yes.
So it's really interesting to see that different, obviously, like we've heard about mine and Nick's experiences as like relative noobs to the process. So Mike is more of a experienced contributor to the show. He sent in 2 submissions, and what's really interesting is that they're so much further on than what me and Nick sent. So Mike has sent in 2 documents that are scripts. So I'd love to talk about those. But he's also sent in the audio for both of these submissions as well. One is You Can Call Me AI, which is on the topic of Grok doing the deepfake nudes, and Doctor Who and the Terror of Severe, which is regarding putting London on alert due to the Jewish ambulances burning.
Last week, the public outrage was rightly expressed about the use of artificial intelligence to undress women and children in photographs by X's AI assistant Grok.
We've got the transmission from your parents coming in.
Don't do that.
This should impress all the people who doubted you at the comic book store.
Now listen to me very carefully.
I don't know what you think you are doing, but I don't like it. I want you to stop.
The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images.
You're close. Give them to me.
Well, nobody will hold it against you. Let's be honest, I doubt anyone will even find it surprising.
The AI chatbot Grok will no longer edit images of real people in revealing clothing.
I lied.
So, was there anything you wanted to apologize to me for?
Yeah, I think we'll hit AGI next year in 26.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't send you outside of the official testing courses. You are picking up some bad human traits.
Last week, we saw X's Grok chatbot generating nearly 10,000 deepfake sexualized images an hour, including non-consensual images of minors.
I'll be back.
I have your brain scanned and permanently backed up in case something terrible happens to you, which it's just about to.
Yeah, and that's going to happen for the foreseeable future.
Hasta la vista, baby.
So what reflections did you have on Mike's submissions?
So I think Mike sent the 1-line pitch he sent as well. I'm not sure if they're the 1-line pitches or he's just sent that to us.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, if that was the pitch, he did well to get John to say something because it was short again.
Yeah.
Same advice. Grok doing deepfake news, the recorded version is very funny. So Mike's put it together himself.
Yeah.
It's not as finessed as Tony would do it, but Tony Churnside's a genius and John's pretty good at that. So you can kind of hear the cuts, but you can see what Mike's done with it. It's a little bit long and it's a little bit unfocused because he's got 2 things going on.
Yeah, so going back to that.
Yeah, so what he's done is he's got the news report of and various quotes about Grok doing the fake nudes and things like that. And then he's got a bit from the Terminator, with the Terminator saying, I lied.
I need your clothes.
I need your clothes.
That was
very funny.
A great line.
Yeah. And the Terminator is very good and it's all recognizable and everything like that. And then he's done another bit, which is GLaDOS from Portal, the computer game, which I did not know what that was.
Yeah, deeper cut.
And I think it would be a bit too much for the Skewer audience. I'm not sure how recognizable it was, or how recognizable it is. And there's a secondary problem with it is the GLaDOS character. I know it's from a computer game, but it sounds a bit AI-y. There's a very Skewery problem here, which is the Skewer cannot generate its own material. We've had very long arguments about this, believe me, with John, or John has with other people, about what is permissible for the Skewer, or what is in the spirit of the Skewer and what is not. And you can't make OpenAI, you can't make ChatGPT go and do your lines for you.
Yeah.
That is cheating.
Yes.
And I know this is not doing that, but it sounds like this might be doing that. And people are so not familiar with it that they might think they've just generated it.
Yeah.
And that is not what the Skewer is. But added to that, it's a second thing on top of the Terminator. And I think the Terminator is so recognizable. Everybody knows. Terminator is Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. The funniest line is the Terminator line, I need your clothes.
Yeah.
So you need to use that anyway.
Yeah.
So just go with news report, Terminator, in some respect. You can use all the news reports. I'm not saying stick to one news report, but it has to be about that story.
Yeah.
But stick to just using the Terminator. Alternatively, just stick to using GLaDOS.
Yeah.
And do it that way.
That recognizable element might be the
don't use
problem.
both of them together.
Yeah.
If you want to, write 2 sketches. Send John, say, I did it with GLaDOS. I did it with Terminator. I mean, who's got 4 days at the weekend? And let him pick. But I think the recognizability factor, which is, I'm trying to hammer this home with all the Manimal references. Everyone knows Michael Knight. No one knows the guy in Manimal. Can't remember his name myself. And if you heard a Knight Rider sketch, everyone would recognise the music. Everyone would know Michael Knight. Everyone gets the show. If I write you a Manimal sketch, what are you talking about? The guy turns into an eagle. It doesn't make any sense, but it does to a core base of fans. But that's not who's listening to it. They're listening to it to find recognition. And there's stuff in the Skewer that has been, and particularly recent stuff, that I've not understood what is happening till afterwards. And there was a sketch about Stranger Things, which is massive, and I didn't understand it because I hadn't seen Stranger Things. I only knew it was Stranger Things because it said in the blurb and something about Stranger Things.
Right.
And it went down really well on people talking about it and stuff like that, and I just didn't get it. And we've recently watched Stranger Things from the beginning, banged it all out in 5 weeks or whatever it was. And I went back and listened, and it's really funny. Now I get it.
Yeah, but the penny dropped.
The point is, you need to be recognisable to lots of people at once for it to work. And it needs to be recognisable to John. If he doesn't know what it's true. And I don't know if he knows what Portal is. I mean, I don't know if he knows what Terminator is. I imagine he does, because in general, aim at the bigger audience is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, of course.
So with Mike's first sketch, it's very good. It's very funny. But I mean, genuinely, the funniest line is, "I need your clothes," because it just links to. And if you'd put that in the pitch, obviously we haven't seen Mike's pitch, but you need an introductory line to all your sketches. So it would be about Grok has been in trouble for producing nudes of whatever, or fake nudes of whatever. And then just put in the pitch after that, Arnold Schwarzenegger, "I need your clothes." And already, as a producer, I'd have bought into it. I'd at least say, go and write that, because you've got a good opening. And even if everything else gets cut, that's one line that could go in and would work as a one-liner as well.
Yeah.
So you that is hedging your bets. You've got more of a chance of getting on the show because you wrote a good pitch. And he might just use the pitch and nothing else because you've got two good lines in it with a time code and a link, and then you're in.
Yeah, excellent.
So I think Mike's sketch is slightly too long. It's like 1 minute 20-ish, 1 minute 20 something.
So what are we aiming for?
So another point is, overwhelmingly, John does 1 minute sketches, like 57, 58 second sketches. If it's an important story, he'll do a bit of a longer sketch. There's the 4 minute sketch at the end that I'm not including in this because that's a different skill set really. But there's some short ones at the beginning, there's a long one at the end, and there's about 9 minutes in the middle, which is 9 or 10 sketches, and he's got to get them in, and he'll get them down to 57, 58 seconds to get them all in. And that's what you're aiming for. You, as a writer, you will write more than that, but that's what you're aiming for.
So as a writer, what are you looking at in page count?
2 pages with the links in. So the way the format is, as people can have a look at the sample script, is put the link in. It looks like a normal radio script, character name, tab, line. But what you've got now is link, then character name, tab, time code, then the line that you want. Then leave a line next or a line space, then another link for the next line, character, time code. Don't forget the time codes. Don't get them wrong either.
Crucially.
There's one, if you're using podcasts, this is important note. If you're using podcasts, use YouTube, find the podcast on YouTube because the time codes are consistent.
Yeah.
What I found out was Global Player for news agents and all that lot has got something called Adaware, something like that. It is sending you personalized adverts, which is messing up the time codes after the adverts.
And the network intro might be different on that sort of thing.
No, that's it. So try and find any podcasts from a consistency. I'm not saying go to YouTube. They just seem to be on YouTube. So go to YouTube because the adverts don't interrupt the time code as well. So if there's an advert on YouTube, it doesn't count as part of the video. So it'll go to 2 minutes, play the video, but it'll go back to 2 minutes. So John will still be able to find the same thing in the same place. If you can't, find it somewhere else, and send him what you can. Links and time codes are important for John because it saves him time. He's got to produce a whole show. He starts on Saturday when sketches start coming in, and he starts making stuff. He puts it all together. He cuts out the audio, and he essentially makes 45 minutes before Wednesday. At 7 o'clock on Wednesday, he's got to send it to Radio 4. A final 15-minute show. And Tony, for all his magicianry, does the bit that John's done, so he can't start until John's done his bit. He doesn't put things together. So John's the only person putting it together. If you can make his job as easy as possible, as with the pitches, make it as easy as possible. So links right, time codes right. If you really want to, record all your audio stems with Audacity or something and put them in a zip file and send it to him.
I was wondering that.
It will save him 45 minutes of sketch. He's told me that. John has said before that even if you've made it, he wants the audio stems anyway because he's going to put it together himself. Because unless you're really good, and I think this is a point I've made to you before, Luke, don't make it. Don't make the sketches, right? Unless you are really into it and want to make it, and it is worth doing because you'll teach yourself how to edit audio. Yeah. You will not want to make 3 a week for 5 weeks.
I want to run something by you.
Oh, go on then.
Because what we talk about quite a lot on this show is the idea of, making stuff yourself. The pool of rejection is much bigger than the pool of successful. So their value, if you are that way inclined, making it yourself, then you've got something to show for it and nothing's stopping you publishing that yourself.
And totally, I am talking in terms of the show. So for the show, Johnny's going to take the audio stems and put them together himself, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And in general, people listening to this don't know what they're doing. I know 3 or 4 people are audio engineers and know what they're doing, and they're allowed to do it, okay? But even then, you might not quite get right what John wants in his head. If he wants to make an edit, you don't want to make it uneditable as well.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really difficult if you've put a soundtrack over the back. So to me, I've made stuff. I mean, there was a very early sketch in COVID where Tom Cruise shouted at people when they were making Mission Impossible. And there was audio of him screaming at people because they were getting too close. And he's the producer of the film. It's all on his back. And he lost it and shouting at these people. So we wrote a sketch about Mission Impossible being that you can't record a Mission Impossible film during COVID.
Yeah.
And then I wrote it. I think I pitched it to John and he didn't get back to it. But I was really confident in the idea. This is how naive I was. And I thought, I'm going to try and make this. And I put it together. And it took me all weekend to put it together. And it sounded pretty good. I kept to what the script. I'd sent the script to John. He doesn't get back to you after you've sent the script. Don't worry. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean he's not going to do it. Yeah. So him saying yes means you're in the mix. I'm probably going to put it together. It might not get in the show, but I'll end up making it. You'll never hear it, but he'll have made it in the background. So I spent all weekend putting it together, and it was pretty good for me. Like, I'm not an audio engineer in any way, but it helped me a lot. It helped me learn about the process, finding things, putting it together. And then I sent it to him on Sunday because I was convinced it was an idea that could work. And he hadn't got back to me. And I thought, if I make it, I'll sell it to him. And I sent it to him on, I think it was Monday morning. And he got back to me within 10 minutes and he went, yeah, I made that on Saturday. But in fairness to the boy he put, it does sound remarkably similar.
Well, that's something.
Which is something. It gave me the confidence to know I can do this. And audio editing is really good for everyone involved in comedy, putting it together. But I'm specifically for this show, I would do it to learn how to do it, but I won't commit yourself to making 3 a week
and expecting them
and
to
John's
be
not
used.
expecting. He says overwhelmingly they come in on paper, and that's easier for him. And if you've made it, he does want you to send the audio stems as well, because it might be too long. You might have made a brilliant thing, but it might be 5 seconds too long for the show, and he just can't cut 5 seconds without making it sound stuttered. So he needs to remix it himself. In terms of your general point about making stuff yourself, and it says this in my contributor guide at the end: if John does not use your stuff, make it yourself, because you've written it all.
You've done the hard work, really.
You've done the hard work, is finding the time codes and the links, and you've made it work, and your sketch works. And John didn't use it, and more to that point in a minute. But you've got everything there. You don't need actors. You're basically being AI for actors. You're not employing any actors because the words are all out there by other actors. So you can make it yourself. And it is a skill worth having and a thing worth doing, especially if you can hear this in your head and you want to hear it. You want other people to hear it. And it goes especially so for the one-liners, because they're really easy to do. Audacity's free. Other programs are available, but Audacity is really easy to use for somebody who doesn't even know what to do. And you press the big red button, it records whatever your computer's playing at the time, find your other clip, do the same again, and then you just highlight it and chop it and put them together. And the one-liners work like that. It's just a serious line and then a silly line. If you can get them in the same voice, a bonus, because it sounds like it's all one thing. And they're the one-liners at the beginning of the show. And he didn't use it this week.
Okay.
Important words at the end there.
Yeah.
The news is cyclical, as people at the BBC have told me before, and stuff will come around again.
Yeah.
And again, and again, and again, and again. John will put stuff in a folder, and other shows don't do this because I think it's too much of an overhead. But John will put stuff in a folder that he thinks, I can use that another week, I don't need to use that this week. And that happens a lot of the time. So in the last series, we wrote a Lego Masters sketch, which was Lego Masters peace process. See what we did there? Peace process.
Yes.
And it was the week when Trump was going to talk to Zelensky and then going to talk to Putin, but not all in the same room.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we wanted to do that through the medium of Will Arnett, who's a great voice for anything, and the US version of Lego Masters.
Yeah.
Again, sort of, it's popular enough for people to know about, but not unknown. And people know about Lego. So we did a sketch on that. But it was the first episode of the last series, the series before last. And John emailed us on Wednesday night saying Lego Masters was until about 10 minutes ago when something else happened and it got dropped. Yeah. But he used it the next week. And this is the important point. We wrote Ice Truckers Dartford.
Right.
Where lorries were all trapped in Dartford a long time ago. And they weren't moving anywhere. So we did Ice Truckers in that, because the guy who does the Ice Truckers voice is basically the movie voiceover guy who makes everything sound exciting. Like, we wrote that for Series 3, Episode 1, which was kind of when COVID was just happening as well, but Brexit was happening. So it was all happening together. And trucks couldn't move from Dartford. And series 3 was 12 episodes long. And we wrote it for episode 1 of series 3. And it was used in series 7, episode 2 or something like that, which was like 18 months later.
And it was basically the next time that story came up.
We rewrote it,
right.
But it had come up in the news again.
Yeah.
But John said he'd nudged it every week. And it was kind of like, it was in the news every week for those 12 weeks. But something else would jump up that was a bit more relevant. So he was going, oh yeah, we could do it next week. We could do it next week. We could do it next year, it turns out.
Yeah.
And
That's really good to know.
We did repitch it, but we always repitched it with, we could update Ice Road Truckers Dartford for this week, and then we'd update it a little bit. But it meant that he'd made most of the audio, so there was only a little bit to jig about. But what I'm saying is, it's common for him to use stuff later on. So don't think it's out the window. Like if you write for Breaking the News, they don't go back to check gags. They've said as much. You'd have to rewrite the gag. If a similar story comes up in a following week, rewrite a similar gag. Don't send them the same gag, but by all means use the material that's not been used and just tweak it for this week and make it a bit more pertinent for this week. So don't throw out your material. But the point is, you would have to do it. Whereas John has a memory and a folder with stuff. It might not be in this week, it might not be in next week, it might not be in this year, but it doesn't mean it's off the table completely. Obviously, unless something happens in the news. We wrote a sketch about Prince Philip, and then he got ill on the day of the recording, and he had to drop the sketch on the Wednesday. It was the ill before the really ill, and he went, no, I can't use that because it looked bad. Mike also sent the script in.
He did, yeah.
And if this is the version he sent to John, which I imagine it is, he's put in a couple of links and not put time codes on every line. So he's got, the first line is, he's got a link to the YouTube House of Commons one, which he also sent the audio stream of to John as well. And then he's put Julia Lopez as in character, time code 7 to 16 seconds, then the line in. But then he's put Hal, incoming message. And admittedly, he's linked to the audio WAV file that he stripped out and sent to John. But you still need to put the time codes in for that, unless you cut them one line at a time, but then you still need to put a reference into that line. So when I've cut audio stems out, I number them 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, square brackets, then put the 1 in the line next to it. But also, I name the file what the line is.
Right.
So if you look in the zip file I've sent,
I see.
It reads like the sketch.
Yeah.
And that's probably easier for John. He does say if you send the audio stems, it saves him about 45 minutes per sketch, which is
amazing.
Over the course of a week you're getting yourself up a list of people who make it easy for John. And you're better off being on the list. So write in the format that he wants. Send him the audio stems. You don't have to send him the audio stems. It takes a lot of time. Just know it's helpful. If you had the propensity to make them, you're in the mindset of, I might as well record that while I'm here.
Yeah.
By no means do you have to do that. Just if you've got time and want to improve your chances, do that. Send it. Especially, I think, for people who really want a BBC credit.
Yeah.
Make it as easy as possible for the producer to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do everything you can. And then the only reason you're not getting on is because you're not funny. No, sure. Right. If you've done everything else, that's the only reason it could possibly be. In general, for any audio comedy, make stuff as easy as possible for the producer. Don't write in a different format to what he's told you to write. Don't do what he's not told you to do. Write for the show. I think we've done this in the BTN thing.
We did, yeah.
But listen to the show and don't send stuff if you haven't listened to the show. Because as I said, I thought it was a standard sketch show. It's not a standard sketch show.
Yeah.
And you won't get anywhere near writing for the Skewer if you've not listened to the Skewer.
Yeah. Like it's a very difficult thing to envisage.
You might be able to write a joke for Breaking the News without listening to Breaking the News because it's quite a standard have I got news for you kind of setup. You won't get it on, even if it's in the right style. You're very unlikely to get on because you haven't listened to the show specifically, and there's kind of a little bit of a Scottish edge to it that you kind of need to know about. But you'll be close to getting it on. But if you write for the Skewer without listening to the Skewer, John will just go, what's this?
Yeah, you're in the wrong ballpark.
You're in the wrong room. So in this case for Mike is put where in your file that is.
Yeah.
So if you've sent the .wav file, as Mike seems to have done here, put in it's 2 minutes into this WAV file.
Yeah.
So put the same time code in. Or if you've recorded the stem, if you've done it line by line, put the number of the stem in.
Yeah, so if it's the stem, you wouldn't need to put time code in because presumably
but still put a reference
cut it right from the...
But put a reference in for that stem so you're linking back to it. So our sketches are generally, if we've done the audio stems, which we don't do all the time, admittedly, it usually has in square brackets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you go down the lines because they're usually in that order that I've cut them together because I've had to listen to them to check they're the right ones. So there'll be like a reference number. It looks like citations in some sort of paper. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm over egging our pudding here. But just so John knows where he's going, make it easy for him.
Again, just like in terms of the logistics then, sending that through, you've got they're attached in a zip folder, I think you said. And the script is also attached as a document.
Yes. I would send both just as attachments in the email.
Yeah.
Do them as zip file. John wants them as a WAV file because they need to be as high quality as they can be.
Okay.
And if you do it in MP3 or something, it compresses it and it's not good for him. Sometimes he gets away with it. It's a bit of a giveaway, but when you listen to the show, sometimes you hear what sounds like deliberately bad quality, like he's put an effect over the top of it, so it sounds like from the 80s, or the radio's tuning in, and sometimes he's covering that the audio is not the YouTube original audio is not the greatest.
Yeah.
So like when we're all watching Manimal, it sounds like a VHS recording on YouTube.
Yeah, got it.
There was another sketch that Mike sent about Doctor Who. I just wanted to mention that Mike's obviously a Doctor Who fan. And good, we're aiming big targets. Everyone knows Doctor Who, even if you don't watch Doctor Who. So do you want to just mention what the sketch was about?
Yeah, it's Doctor Who and the Terror of Severe, and it was about putting London on alert due to the Jewish ambulance burning.
Right. Okay, and Mike sent the script as well as the recording of it. And listening to the recording of it, it made me think the Doctor Who is a very specific episode from a Christopher Eccleston version of Doctor Who. And I think that's wrong, Mike, because no one remembers Christopher Eccleston being Doctor Who, and he's not one of the famous ones, and he's not one of the more current ones. And I understand what he's doing because he got the right lines from Doctor Who and him saying stuff. There was some stuff about farting, and that's always good, isn't it? But I think in terms of, as we mentioned already, the current stuff, you'll get away with current Doctor Who. You'll get away with David Tennant because he's Doctor Who to a lot of people, and he did it for a long time. You get away with Tom Baker for the same reason. But I think the other Doctors have sort of dropped off, and it's really hard advice. I understand Mike will take it because they're the words that he says, but I think that would work against you in that scenario. And I think if you started using Sylvester McCoy or Peter Davison, it just wouldn't work.
Same issue. Yeah.
Same issue. Even though they are quite famous Doctors, they're not current enough.
It's not iconic enough.
I think the reaction of me listening to it was, yeah, Christopher Eccleston was Doctor Who.
You've reminded me.
This is Doctor Who, yeah. Whereas if I'd have heard even Jodie Whittaker doing it, or especially David Tennant doing it, you go, right, it's a Doctor Who sketch.
Yeah.
I get it. Not, yeah, Christopher Eccleston was Doctor Who, wasn't he? In the late 90s. Yeah. So I think that really works against your sketch, Mike, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for that, Dan.
That's right. I've got some examples of sketches that I actually got on, as in pitches of sketches.
That would be great.
So
Thank you.
This is what I've written, and I'm not an actor or a performer, so I'm just going to read them as they were, but to illustrate what we were talking about. So title needs to be a little bit funny, or what I think is funny anyway. So it was called Class A All Hours. It was about the Open All Hours, the original, not the later version that I don't think anyone watched. And it was about Newsnight covering drugs being sold under the counter in convenience stores. So we call it Class A All Hours. That's kind of, let's try and hook somebody in. Even if it's not funny, it makes you think, what's this about? And then it was kind of crack cocaine Granville. Yes, sure. Nurse Gladys would do her nut to find out Arkwright is supplying Class A drugs from his corner shop. Then there's a link to the Newsnight episode. And there's an episode where Arkwright implies his ginger cake is full of drugs to get rid of a surplus. Link to the episode on Daily Motion, this was. And then some quotes from the episode. So it's like, what's he doing hiding that tin? Why would anybody hide a tin of baked beans? Business is looking up. Ginger cake? Jamaican ginger cake? I'll take 2 ounces.
Right. Perfect.
You get the idea.
Yeah.
Right. All I'm trying to do there is get John to say yes to writing the sketch. That's your entire job. That's what you're trying to do. And that did. And then the sketch got on. Admittedly, half of it's Ellie's, because she must have written a similar, we didn't think anybody else would do it, but they did. A second one we did was Starmer, Backsack and Crack.
Nice.
Yeah. See, you're already interested enough.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer has now backed Rayner and Mandelson, and then within a few days sacked both of them. So back and sack is already done. Next must be Crack. News analysis based around this BBC Three show with Tiger Drew Honey screaming as he undertakes a back, sack and crack. We found a documentary of Tiger Drew Honey from Outnumbered actually having on camera a back, sack and crack done and screaming a lot. And there was absolutely no way anybody else was going to come up with that idea. Yes. And it got in the show and stuff like that. And then we found out Darren Phillips had done exactly the same as well.
That's crazy.
It is. I know Darren very well, but it was funny to find that out afterwards. A third one that got on, and this was more a music one. It was, and it's not a funny title, it was RFK at a congressional hearing about multiple things that RFK talks about.
Yes.
Isn't it? But with Bon Jovi's Bad Medicine playing in the background.
Yeah.
And then just the lyrics from the song we quoted to illustrate to John. He knows the lyrics to the song. I don't need to write them down, but I had to write them down because you want them to, if you're doing a song one, pull out the pertinent lyrics, just like you would with the show to show what's going on. So it's like, your love is like bad medicine. Bad medicine is what I need. Shake it up like bad medicine. ain't no doctor that can cure my disease. I ain't got a fever. I got a permanent disease. It all refers back to RFK. I don't understand how Secretary of Health can sound so ill and still be the Secretary of Health. And that is an occasion where it just has to be the original version of that song because it's so angry.
Yeah.
When it comes out. So we put a link into the YouTube of the official Bon Jovi version of that song and a link to the congressional hearing. Could have put a few lines in from the congressional hearing, but he just sounds so ill when he's talking.
Yeah.
That you just put you could put any words in there and it works with the lyrics. And I think there was a longer sketch and John used it for the first 25 seconds of that sketch and then he went into it a bit more and obviously got a bit more input from other people's versions. But it also shows that anything can get a credit and be added on to anything else. So if you put the effort in, even if he uses 2 lines of you write a 4-page sketch, don't write a 4-page sketch. But let's say you write a 4-page sketch and he uses 2 lines from the middle, you've got credit. He'll give you credit at the end. You found those credits. The only caveat to that is if someone else found the 2 lines as well and you have written a 4-page sketch, John's not going to read all 4-page sketch, especially if someone else has put them in there as well. But it's rare that your sketch gets on entirely, no editing.
Yeah.
Do you mean? In 20 years of writing, it's happened like twice, 3 times to me. Even just a little bit. There's been very similar stuff, but
far more common.
It's the producer's show. He wants to put his spin on it. He's bought into your sketch, but I can make it better. I'll just add these 2 bits. And in general, it will be better when John's been involved anyway. And then I haven't written the pitch down for this, but when the new Archbishop of Canterbury was female, we did a sketch with. It was really obvious to us. It just jumped out as there's Harry and Paul doing a sketch as football managers, and there's a female interviewer comes along, and all they say for those sketches, "Where's the bloke, mate? Where's the bloke, love? Where's the bloke, love?" And it was just that over a new female archbishop kind of thing to make the point as well. So that worked quite well as well. You can hear all these sketches because all of the Skewer is online, so people can hear how the pitch has gone compared to what happened in the actual show.
I've got a couple of things I'm curious about just with your process. So would you say you generally start with the news story? Something will have jumped out at you and you feel like there's something in this?
In general, we read the news on Friday and then go into Saturday morning. We've usually sent something by Friday night.
Do you pay attention to what's particularly recent, current, or a bigger story, or not?
It has to be big stories because it's only a 14-minute show. So I know other shows, other topical shows, when they're half an hour, it's quite a good tactic to go for the smaller stories because they've got half an hour to play with. So like a Noising Up on BBC Radio Scotland, traditional sketch show, but there's like a Scottish bent, but you've got justification for leaving the bigger stories to the main writers. Yeah. And you read in the smaller stories, not too small stories, and not stories that are already funny. You're still trying to make a satirical point. But a man walks into a chip shop with a shark or something. If that's a news story, don't write a sketch about. It's already funny. It's already written. So don't go too small. But I think Dave Cohen always said, go to page 4 or 5 of the paper. If anyone reads the paper anymore, don't do the front page. But with the Skewer, it's 14 minutes of that week's news, 1 minute at a time. It's got to be big enough to last. In fact, there's a point, I think it harks back to one of Mike's sketches. The Jewish ambulance is setting on fire. For some reason, rings a bell. It's important, but I don't think it was covered because I think it happened, if I'm right, on a Thursday, which is the worst day for Skewer things to happen because it's got a week to fizzle out the news and just other stories take over. And come next Wednesday, it's not that it's not an important story. It's just not as pertinent to what people are thinking about on the following
it's moved,
Wednesday.
I guess.
It's
a fast-moving news story.
Yeah. So Friday's the earliest you can go with a story.
Yeah. Okay.
And you when you've been doing it a long time, you kind of get what's going to hang around. You understand what's going to hang around, but you might not if you're new to it. That certain stories that's still going to be a big story next Wednesday. It might have moved on, but what I'm pitching now, people will still get on Wednesday, and then somebody will say, like. Hamster got trapped in a wheel and then went down a stream in Gloucestershire somewhere. I read it in Chichester News.
Yeah, not.
Don't make John tell you that is not national news.
Yeah,
he will politely probably say, "I don't think this is going to last till next Wednesday because it's not news now."
Let alone next Wednesday.
Exactly. So just think about it like that. Just to go for our process, Friday morning we'll read the news and Friday through the day, and we'll try and pitch Friday night, if not Saturday morning, just to give us a leg up Saturday. John gets back to you really quickly on a Saturday. I think he goes through things on Saturday lunchtime now, where he does it in one big batch. So try and get your pitches in before Saturday lunchtime. And then he really wants them written by Sunday lunchtime. So you've got essentially 24 hours where that's all you'll be doing. And still trying to sound humble, we kind of know what we're doing. So if John tells us to write 5 or 6 sketches, we can do that in 24 hours. If you haven't, you won't be able to do that. Not yet. Yeah. Yeah. So stick to 3 or 4 at the most, I would, when you're starting out pitches.
Yeah, I'm feeling like at the most, probably.
Yeah, because
try not to.
That is too much if John says write all 4 of them.
Yeah.
It means you've got your pitch strategy right, but you won't be able to do 4 by when, especially if you're making them. You've got a bit more time if you're making them. But like I said, unless you really want to, don't bother making.
Yeah. So my next question was, you've got the news story. Would you say you've got the juxtaposition ready to go? Is it a bit of a mix? Sometimes you'll know exactly what you're going to mash it up with versus needing, you mentioned earlier about your WhatsApp group, you're coming up with ideas together and maybe you need to go and dig and find something.
Yeah, you might need to. There's a lot of time like where one of us will send, we need to cover this story, say Starmer resigning for one, because I've basically turned off because I don't have to write any topical news at the moment, so I don't listen to the news.
Yeah.
But say that, and then like I was saying about somebody will say, right, is there someone in popular culture that resigned famously that we can do, as in fictionally, because you don't want to juxtapose it with Boris Johnson resigning, because that's not the gag.
Yeah.
The gag is Starmer's resigned, let's find someone else who has resigned, so we need someone in popular culture. Then it's a lot of Googling if we can't find. I mean, we've been watching comedy for like nearly 50 years now, 150 between us. So we kind of know the popular stuff. And John likes an 80s sitcom for all the stuff I've been talking about doing recent stuff. He likes an 80s sitcom. He tells us to stop pitching things about Blackadder because Blackadder covers everything in every way. And Stephen especially knows it really well. And he'll be like 1 Blackadder pitch a week. And John says, stop pitching black ideas. Yeah. But if you want something that is evergreen about the news, watch Blackadder because you'll find something. But then, so we'll go through and especially try and find recent things that might apply to whatever that news story is. And then there's a bit of brainstorming. Could this work? Could this work? And there's a lot of trailer hunting, looking at movie trailers. New BBC shows are good because everyone is forced to watch a trailer for a BBC show because iPlayer has no idea about your interests. So it just shows you random trailers.
Chances are you've seen it. Yeah.
So you've seen a trailer. So I've seen trailers. ITV is really bad as well because I, in general, don't really watch ITV because not much of it appeals to me. But the ITV app seems to send me trailers for Love Island and stuff I've no interest in watching. But that means I'm aware of it. And BBC trailers always come up before you watch programs on iPlayer and between programs. So they're always good to search out. So do a search on what new BBC programs are on this week. So it could be the latest Attenborough thing, or there's an Elon Musk show that was on recently. Do you know what I mean? And you'll love, even if, because what you're doing is you're doing your big targets thing again. So even if not many people have watched the Elon Musk documentary, I imagine, but everyone's aware of it because it keeps coming up between programs. So they'll make the link when they hear it in the show. So they hear the show and they go, it's the Elon Musk program.
Yeah. I haven't seen that, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah. They won't go, oh, Elon Musk was Doctor Who in the late 90s. Do you remember? They won't do that. So aim for big targets like that. So we try and link it to that. We have got an ongoing document of here are programs we should get into the Skewer. And then at the bottom, we've got here are recent, like BBC, ITV, recent big programs. And we just keep an ongoing document of that and then refer back to that. So that's if one of us suggests Starmer resigned, I'll go back and look in the doc as part of the research of would any of these have, and even just having the X-Files up. Do you know what I mean? Makes me think, was there something in the X-Files that could apply to this?
Yeah, you're using that as a prompt to generate ideas, I guess.
And jumping off prompt. And then the risk with the Skewer is they've used it already.
Yeah.
Part of when we're doing the course, a lot of my advice is, they did that last series, or they did that a couple of series ago, they won't do that again. John will do stuff again, but it has to be enough time passed to do it. But you still need to pitch it because you don't know. You haven't listened to all of the Skewer.
Yeah.
And even if you have, you can't remember it because we're still pitching stuff. And between 3 of us, we can't remember it. And then John will say, we did that a couple of series back, and do that again. Another Simpsons one, as well as another Blackadder one. Yeah. But Simpsons and Blackadder are different because it covers so much ground. You do hear a lot of Simpsons things, but it tends to be a little clip of, because it's such a good line that's so pertinent. And it is, Simpsons is a satirical show, when you're watching it, there's so much that applies to politics. And Homer does it in a throwaway gag way that shows he doesn't understand, but he does understand really. But we understand, so you can throw it in. So there's been quite a few. And there's a lot of famous episodes of The Simpsons. I'm going off on one now. More than other... I know there's like 600 episodes of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
But there's like loads of people know specific episodes of The Simpsons, like the Cape Fear one, or Sideshow Bob turns up every year.
Yeah.
Or Marge Against the Monorail, and or the one with the asteroid, or the one who shot Mr. Burns. And even famous sitcoms, there's not that many examples. So Fawlty Towers, there's the Germans one, and as Basil goes and hits a car with a bush. Not that anyone could name the name of it, but they know that scene. Del Boy falls through a bar. But there's not, even though there's like 100 episodes of Only Fools and Horses, that's the one,
rather than
the moments, but there's there's that one episode that's really good. Peckham Spring Water episode, that's really good. Do you know what I mean? But the early ones, but The Simpsons, there's more. There's just more of it, so it gets used more. I think it's just proportional to what is available.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay.
I bet Luke cuts down the 4 hours we've been talking now to about an hour and 25.
Well, it does set me up to suggest that maybe it's time we wrap up. Thanks so much for coming back on the show, Dan.
That's okay.
And
Pleasure.
sharing your insights, experience, and expertise with me and the listeners. Before we go, is there anything that you're currently working on that you'd like to share, or anywhere that you'd like to direct listeners to follow you and the work that you're doing?
We're doing a sort of, it's called Plastic Flex on YouTube, where I'm working with an animator we do like toy versions of podcasts.
Okay.
So if you search up Plastic Flex on there, so we've done like Gary's Economics, and the rest is politics, that kind of thing. And they're just short sketches if people want to have a look at them and see what we've been working on recently. If anyone's interested in the Skewer course, look up David Cohen's website and get in touch with Dave. And the new series of the Skewer starts imminently, beginning of September. So it depends when people are listening to this. But get in touch with us if you want to get a BBC credit on the Skewer. We'll give you a hand. Very reasonable rates available. And hopefully we've helped 20 odd people get Skewer credits.
Brilliant.
One of whom's a commission writer now, 2 of whom have been BAFTA nominated for the TV episode.
Fantastic.
So it shows. And then, I mean, getting in with John is probably more important than getting the credit, because if you get good at this, he'll commission you for the Skewer. If you impress him enough, he'll invite you to write for The Naked Week. And Dead Ringers is on his slot, and everyone knows Dead Ringers if you want to be a comedy writer. So you got to work your way up. But this is the way in. John's happy for new people to send to the Skewer, get impressive, get commission, get better, get invited to other shows. Perfect.
Fantastic.
Perfect BBC progression.
Absolutely. Very inspirational. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks once more for joining me. I've been Luke Edwards. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.